Alrighty, we're back. Second time this month. It kind of seems appropriate, as well as listening to certain suggestions. Seems to be that the last message that went out was received by all intended parties, so it's a good thing. Getting there, slowly but surely. You have to excuse the beard. See what it looks like, you know. Effectively, from the last video, a lot has happened. Like I said, the intended parties have all received the information and worked through it, and it's made a whole lot of sense. You can see how things are progressively panning out. More so the fact that you'll see a timeline panning out when you look through Shadowcrown's Flipboard. Yeah, so the magazines. Everything right from science and technology, space exploration within the blocks. And I say blocks because it just allows me to narrow the focus a bit more, so it's not so broad and trying to pick through the different news feeds and whatnot. It helps with painting a proper picture, you know what I mean, much clearer picture. And along with military activities, you know, Earth and environment, and so on and so forth. So there's loads been going on. I've picked out a few things. There are a few things such as, you know, EU. There's the war efforts, or rather the efforts to avoid war, but you know, it's one of them scenarios, isn't it, whereas you know something has to happen, but how does it happen? Yeah. And war seems to be an easy option, but we know that it's not the best option. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. Now, we look at all the different countries and why them wars exist, or the disputes exist. Yeah? We can draw on the last video. So, as I've maintained throughout, you find that these videos kind of like build on each other. Everyone carries a bit of information. Seems somewhat encrypted, but at the same token makes perfect sense when you start piecing it together and you realise that, you know, what he's talking about is relevant to what's going on, and it's there for you to then decompile and work it out for yourself. So it works out, or works in your favour. It's not about me or anybody else telling people what to do, just giving you bits of information how to do something, and it's up to you to do it. Simple as that, isn't it, really? Yeah? The thread that we're going to pull upon is the strand where we was talking about compromise. Is that compromise is defined in modern day terms as two parties agreeing to something but losing something. Very simple, very linear. You know, it's there, it's matter of fact, there's no flexibility in it. However, from the last video, and through the information given, and through understanding the activities that have been going on and the relevance for the information given, it does make sense, doesn't it? In that it's not about losing out, it's about understanding the dynamics of a relationship and how things are to work. So in the short term, yes, you may, in theory, one party may seem as though they're losing out, but losing out on what exactly? 9 times out of 10 you're not actually losing anything, you're just postponing. Yeah? The other party then satisfies a short-term need, the more urgent need. Yeah? Then in turn the other party that has to postpone theirs will then benefit in the long term from their long-term plans, and so on and so forth. Where it becomes relevant is, like, for instance, we can marry that up with North Korea, for instance. They realise that in the short-term period that this thing about denuclearisation is of an importance. For their confidence in reality is not needed. Not the denuclearisation, just the need for nuclear weapons is not needed. No? So therefore, they make their compromises. Fair enough. We won't withdraw the troops. Don't withdraw the troops. We'll just get on with negotiations. We understand the need for this, and so on and so forth. So that's panning out well. We can compare it again with, like, say, for instance, with the European Union. They now need to realise that it's not all about them. It never has been all about them, although they've tried to make it about them. Like, for instance, moving from the 1975 agreement of fisheries and so on and so forth, through to an economic community, much similar to the Commonwealth, to then more onto more of a super state basis, whereby a currency comes into play, and then all of a sudden a political infrastructure is born, and the federalisation of it all. Yeah. So super state. Yeah. That is, yes, about them, about building stuff up. But it's not what everybody wanted, and it goes in line with what I was saying a few moons ago now about, it's interesting, isn't it, that focusing on the UK for a moment, is that it had a lot of public services, national assets, and because people were skimming off the top and whatnot, them national assets became more of a financial burden. But it's interesting that them national assets, once they're sold off, they're making profit. So it kind of goes to show, doesn't it, really, that the government in itself, or politicians in themselves, as in over the last 30, 40 years, have no real business acumen. It's all been about them and not really understanding how things work. If in fact they'd have done the job and done it right, these national assets would have paid the dividends twofold and would have worked out for the nations. However, the relevance is it gets to the point where as people get fed up with it. Mr. Johnson has been, airing his opinion quite a lot just lately. But does in fact have a point. It's not just Brexit is not just about migration, it's about who calls the shots, why and what for and how. And the way the EU's been working out is effectively, by comparison, has been failing much in the same way as this kingdom has with its national assets. Basically repeating the mould. Historical events. Therefore, in turn, if you keep doing what you're always doing, you will keep getting what you're always getting. That's maintained right throughout. However, we're pulling out. Further relevance, I guess you could in fact say that if the call becomes greater for an EU referendum, a second EU referendum, it's not an in or an out. Maybe it would in fact be justified if it was a referendum based on options. Yeah? And the mistakes that were avoidable and that are avoidable are the ones where we say, well, I pointed out a couple of years ago where my disapproval, shall we just call it, for the lack of a better way of expressing it, my disapproval towards central government only airing one side of the vote. Yes or no. Instead it voted for yes to stay in. When in fact it should have it should have aired both yes and no. Why yes and why no? Because at the end of the day, central government, it is led by the people. Right? That is what democracy is all about. You present both options, and the whys and the what fors of both of them options. It seems like a rather mammoth task to be able to do it on a second time round. If it's achievable, and it's not too costly and doesn't drag out too far, then yes, 2 or 3 options should be presented. The presentation would be A, B or C. This is what A presents, this is what B presents, and this is what C presents. All being told this is what has been discussed. Now, that being said, it does require the fact that the European Union in themselves has to remove this inflexibility of their own, because that will become a challenge later on down the line for them. It's a foregone conclusion. No, it is. It will be the make or break of it beyond Brexit. Why? Because they can't break the old habits. They can't break the historical landmarks, the markers which have brought them to this point. It's seriously, I'm not just scaremongering or anything like that, or trying to bring them down. Not by any means of the imagination. The evidence is there that they've done it to themselves. Nobody's done it. They've done it themselves. Like I was saying before about Angela Merkel. Did I not say that she will not be going any further than what she already is? That's the way she was. A few years ago. And look what's happened to her elections. It's got nothing to do with me, got nothing to do with anybody else but herself. About the way things have panned out. The impact it's having on their political infrastructure, the decisions that people are making in regards to the choices that are being made. Yeah, easier said than done. Yeah, see, it's easy for me to say on this side because I can see it. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? That's what this is all about, is highlighting some of the flaws, some of the faults, and saying, right, this is the flaw, the fault. Perhaps you need to look at this again, so it's a fresh perspective. Have a look at it again. Yeah? How are we going to deal with it? Yeah? Yeah? Draw upon it what you think. At the end of the day, if it gets too out of hand in the terms of this Brexit and the referendum, then maybe, just maybe, and it's certainly not an in or an out, because that decision was that decision has been made. And to quell the argument, I have already put this down in writing, as in text on the flipboard. The perspective is, okay, it doesn't matter whether one bloc, in the terms of say one country or another, has voted for say to stay in or even stay out. Collectively, the result was out. Yeah. That is what a democracy is all about. It's the collective vote, right? Not about just, well, we as a country voted in, so we have to stay in, and we as a country say, because what you've got is the foundations of an argument. You have. It's saying that's my word against yours. But the understanding of a vote, a collective vote, irrespective of whether one segment of that vote is more in favour than the other, the collective vote is voted out. End of story. Yes, it is rather unanimous, but that's what it was about. There will be no more yes or no votes. It is what it is, because the majority has chosen. But I agree with possibly a second referendum if more choices are available. A, B or C. What method should be chosen? And each one should be laid out clearly. Yeah, there you go. The other side of it all, in the terms of the session of compromise or perspective, it's already been said, and now even Syria's own people, citizens, are saying the same thing. That they don't like the current political regime. They don't like the way, unfortunately I have to mention names, and as I've done, is Bashar al-Assad needs to consider resigning, to giving up the post. I'm sure you'll find something to do. And I say that, and hopefully that the right people pick up the message, that Russia is not going to lose out on anything by changing presidency, because at the end of the day, if you're allied, which you are, the best thing for you to do is look at how your relationship or their relationship is happening, is what type of effect, both nationally and internationally, that type of leadership style is having on the whole 9 years. What did I put in here? Yeah, I would encourage Mr. Assad to start thinking maybe it is time to retire. Because when you actually think about it, when you look at how this is panning out, which way this is swaying, and the grievances and the mass exodus and the strain it's had on other people and the blame, the finger pointing and whatnot, peace within that region is beginning to destabilise, purely and simply because of just one method of leadership. So the greater whole is being put at risk. The leadership methodology is just simply not working. Having somebody else in who appreciates, I'd say democracy, but the way the central side of that, where the Asian bloc is working, I would just say the diversity and the independence of it all would be better. A change in that methodology would be better. It will more than likely better serve Russia, better serve the neighbours, and better serve the international community. It will in turn develop better and create stronger cohesion within the political relationships, neighbouring countries, trading countries. It'll also send up a signal, a flag, to all Syrian refugees or citizens that things are changing now. Come back in. War's over and done with. Let's call it a day. And from that, you will see economic prosperity. It will return. Alright, it won't return overnight, naturally, but you will see a remarkable change. And because of a better form of leadership methodology, the increase in relationships and new-founded relationships, you'll find the economy will improve. And then at the same token, you will find that it'll be better for people to go to. Yeah, it eventually might become an area that people might want to visit. Who knows? Yeah, it's your decision at the end of the day. But I think a resignation, retirement, is perhaps due. I don't have bare no bones that say otherwise. But again, that's my opinion. I think it's a valid one, based on everything I've seen. It will serve its purpose in the grand scheme of things, both in the short term and in the long term. And it will. It also leads itself and lends itself well onto other aspects, such as the use of nerve agents. It's rather apparent now, isn't it, that something's happened, somebody's done it, somebody's drawn from a stockpile, whether it be the owner or whether it be a subsequent party, trying to win favour by doing it for them. Who knows? Or whether it's a cloak and dagger exercise whereby another country does it to stimulate this current phase of arguments or war. Personally, I wouldn't like to see any ground military presence, to be honest, because committing to that is going to cause more problems. That's not to say that we don't have the capability to overturn this. Yeah, we do, and more than likely with a successful outcome. But we can avoid that, and that is another part of the retirement. Yeah? And I think maybe it is also a time to have a look at destroying stockpiles. So whether Russia owns it or whether the Americans own it, or whether it's dormant, it's laying dormant within the Asian floor. Just get rid of it. Nobody likes the idea of it being there. You've also got an inspectorate group that keeps an eye on it. It just goes to show that people don't like the idea of it being there. So maybe it is time that people agreed that you get rid of it all. How you get rid of it, well, that's another thing. There it is. But we could really do with seeing the back end of all of this before it starts, before it gets any worse. Yeah? Alright. We'll leave that one there. You can now start to see some of the reasoning within it all. Replace ego with pride. Pride in capability, pride in being able to do something, pride in being able to change and change for the right reasons. Yeah? It's one of the reasons why I said right from the beginning I want to massage egos, because an ego will get you, eventually get you into trouble. It will. It will eventually warp perspectives, because that's what this has been about all along, hasn't it? Right from 2009 right through until today, it's been about perspective, how you see something. And as Einstein once said, and we've maintained throughout, and other people have maintained throughout, is that we need to change the way we look through the lens, because if we keep using the same lens, we will keep seeing and saying and doing the same things. Hence the expression, if you keep doing what you're always doing, you will keep getting what you're always getting. Yeah? History will continue to repeat itself. So yeah, it kind of all stands to reason, doesn't it? It all kind of like pulls itself together, and it suggests that maybe now is the time for certain people to move on. Yeah? Right. Yeah. An Iran deal, a few more stars, unfortunately, have moved on. Environmental issues, a lot of effort towards trying to clean it up. Public health, and a lot of effort gone towards trying to remedy a lot of problems, everything from breast cancer to prostate cancer. Yeah, huge amount going on. I've even seen, we all know I'm a bit of a space body. I like the idea of the space side of things. And looking at SpaceX, Elon Musk, and various other things, space exploration, putting a car up in space. When I was watching the TV programs, TV series, the old TV series, the Star Trek, and it was the Star Trek Discovery, I believe it was. It reminded me of that. And there it was. And as soon as I saw it, it's like where they found an actual pickup truck just floating through space. Only the Americans, eh? Oh dear. But there's loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff going on. You're all just doing great. Space exploration, the space industry, shall we call it, is beginning to develop. There's flower and everything. It's a good thing. Now, let's have a look at our last one or two things. Well, first off, congratulations, because the other thing there is in order. Another congratulations. Britain's Queen hopes Prince Charles will one day lead Commonwealth. Prince Charles is confirmed as the successor to the Queen as next head of state in the Commonwealth. Congratulations. I mean, chuffed the bits, aren't you? No, well done. Start prepping for the next generation, so to speak. Right. Yes. Just a couple of things left. When I said, harking back to the beginning, when I says it seems that the last video has reached all the appropriate people. Yes. When I was talking about when 2019 comes around and this completes a full 10-year cycle, we're now in the 9th year and effectively we're beginning to wrap this up. Whilst it will wrap up, it will create something new, or something else will take its place, as in these videos and what Shadowcrown's doing. It seems to be the individual, the group that I was targeting, that seems to approve of having a chat about the next steps forward, which then in turn confirms what I was saying before, that you do have the capability to change. This last 9 years alone, as well as this last couple of weeks alone, shows, we all have that capability. Change, finding new ways to adapt, develop, and effectively work out a path which not only is beneficial to yourself, whether it's short term or long term, but benefits yourself in the short, but benefits people in the long term. It's not just about us singularly, it's about us as collectively. So it's not singularly, it's collectively. And it's things like that, or should I say it's methodologies, perspectives like that, that shows us what we can achieve, and in what short periods of time that we can achieve it in. Okay? Now, to let you in on some elements of it all, skipping ahead a year, effectively this 10-year project has really actually afforded me the opportunity to not only experience a thing, in this term, leadership, and I'm not talking about leadership as in the first time, no, there's been many times before, it's just been presented or otherwise experienced in many different ways, whether it be small cell military activity through to, well, this international management. It's basically allowed for me to both know and understand hierarchy systems, right from ground level right up to high level. It's shown me conspiracy theories, prophecies, and so on and so forth. This is everything from the Illuminati right through to aspects of, like, say, for instance, the Book of Daniel, and the prophecies there, which by and large is one of the other reasons why I've not got involved in the military activity too much, because whilst I did assist from the sideline with ending the last war and bringing that to a conclusion, a pretty rapid one, anything that I say online is not going to be appropriate at the end of the day. If I was to ever give any assistance in that regard, then it would have to be done behind closed doors. That's how strategy works in that regard. It's not it would be inappropriate and irresponsible for me to start talking about military strategy online. It's not something I'll do. But at the same token, looking at things like that, the prophecies and strategies and things like this, different leadership systems, methodologies, the reasons whys and what fors, and responsibilities to citizens, pride of place, and so on, so on, so on, and so forth. It's allowed me to see a whole spectrum of stuff. Now, as a twofold, or two kind of like in parallel with each other, one, it's allowed me to produce a couple of training videos, for which I have every intention of expanding on. It shows that the academic industry, or the academic sector, has understood, and appreciates the cycle, the grading cycles, at 1 to 9. I've seen the change, I've seen and heard about the changes, and I have. And you seem to think it works, which is good. Appreciate that. Now, the upshot of it all is one, yes, this works towards my own academic development, my own personal development, i.e. as in doctorate, but it also works for the plan that will come next year. As most all know that have followed me through with this from 2009, the first 3 years I did develop a 65-page, I believe it was, 70-page plan. Yeah, streamlining, speeding up progress, development, effectively about taking the whole and keeping the parts as they are and working as normal, but bringing them together as a whole. Yeah? Attaching a plan, a purpose, or function to it, or giving it direction, balance, or balance and direction. So effectively, over the next 12 months, once I finish the thing that I'm working on, I will start revisiting that, reevaluate it, and then effectively revamp it and make it for presentation. And effectively, it will usher in a new phase of development. Yeah, well, I will try and make it as clear as possible for you. Yeah. Show how all of this works for everybody, both in the short term and the long term. How people will benefit from it all. Just sound reasoning and explanations and so on and so forth. Again, arcing back, balance and direction. Yeah. You assessed some of the ideas from over the last 9 years, and you know they'll work. You know my reasoning is sound, my logic is undeniable. No, I'm joking. But seriously though, then it's a new perspective. It brings new hope in that regard. Yeah? It will be worthwhile. Okay. That being said, I cannot see anything else that I need to chat with you about? Yeah. We've covered it all. I've taken enough of your time. Remember, everything is a matter of perspective. Sometimes you have to lose something to gain something. I've said this throughout. It doesn't have to be a negative. It can be a positive. Yes, some people may have a short-term loss, but is it really a loss? No? Because if you have to give something up in the short term, you will gain something in the long term. I've maintained this understanding right throughout, and it has come to pass. Yeah? You keep doing what you're always doing. You know, now it's progressively becoming cliche in some ways. To make change work, you're going to have to change other aspects of things. Like I was saying, it's not, yeah, fair enough, I have to call for somebody's resignation. It is justified, it is proven. Yeah? Consider it. It may be a way, a much more prudent, proficient and professional way of dealing with this scenario. Yeah? To avoid unnecessary conflict. Yeah? Owning up to whoever was the instigator of this nerve agent issue may own up to it all, may not, but accept or understand and accept the fact that somebody was responsible for it, and it should not go undealt with, untreated. It needs to be sorted out. Some part of the way towards the resolve is destroying the stockpiles, is getting rid of it, incinerate it if that's what's needed. It avoids those problems here and now, and specifically any future problems. It's of no real use to anybody, so there's going to be no real loss. The unrest around that area, Asia, is obviously going to cause problems in other areas, such as, if I was to look at Africa, the US warns of growing African terror threats. Extremists, right? They're not happy with what's going on. It's not about bowing to them or giving in. It's about understanding why that threat or that problem exists. Again, is there something you can do about it? Yeah, the initial wipe it out in some cases. But at the same token, is that necessary? Is that the way to move forward? Is it a problem that you need to address yourselves? Yeah? Don't be frightened of change. Change has to happen. We as fixed variables, as humans, we're changing every day. Every minute that ticks by, we change. Let's make this whole political infrastructure about being fixed variables. Yeah? It's about humans, about us all. We have to change. We have to move with the times. Yeah? It's not about sticking to what we always know, because what we always know doesn't always serve its purpose. It may do initially, but not always. Yeah? Inflexible. See, there's loads of little bits of information in there for you. All them little bits of information make something much larger. As I said at the end of the last video, to close this video, don't ever worry about not being told about what's going on in the terms of these plans that Shadowcrown has. All you need to do is ask. I've got no intentions, no hidden agenda or anything like that. Just ask. Or otherwise, when I've completed doing what it is I'm doing, you will always get to find out. You will be the first people to know. Or you people, or as people, citizens, you'll be the first to know. Once it's been sorted out. We've got no intentions of hiding anything. All it is, for from this side of it all, it's just varying degrees of opacity, yeah, or transparency. Might need to be not so transparent one moment while I deal with some things, and then it'll right through to being fully transparent. But if you need to know, depending on what it is at the time, yeah, ask. Nothing to hide, you know. And I would like to think that's the same with as we progress, and I would like to think, believe, naively or not, that we can all work on that same understanding eventually. Yeah, we're working with each other, doing our own little thing in our own little within our own little borders, but more cohesive, more connected. Yeah, it will all come in a plan. It's all on its way. Yes. Right. I said before, I've had enough of your time now. I've taken enough of your time. Thank you for watching. For the progressive audience that is coming from these videos, thank you. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It is appreciated. It is appreciated. We'll make it work. It's gonna work. Don't worry. It's, in some ways, it's actually long overdue. You know this? It needs to happen. It's there for everybody. Everybody will have access to the plan, system, and the path will be laid bare for everybody to see. You will like it. As I said before, if it's not me doing it, somebody else will do it. Question is, how will that pan out? Yeah. Yeah. So don't worry. Be happy. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for listening. Congrats to all those who have earned it. My condolences to those who have had to stand in the wake of somebody passing on. My respects to you all. Have fun and